N-scale plastic kits are small and tedious. I get pretty good results in about half an hour for a piece like this, and you can apply this approach to a range of models and a range of scales. So let's go from plastic to fantastic in a few short steps. Whatever I'm painting, I always start with a light coat of Rustoleum flat grey. This sticks to plastic and does a decent job of getting into the cracks without hiding too much detail. Since they don't need clearing upside down after use, they're great for modelling because you're often only needing very small amounts at a time. For this stone tunnel portal, it'll be in a heavily wooded area with lots of growth, so I'm shooting for a fairly dark and damp look. For that reason, I'll end up using more green. Here's a place we explored recently, which has inspired my colour palette. The next thing I'll add is a black wash to fill the cracks and crevices. As you can see, I'm not fussy, I just lay it on. If you dab the brush on a paper towel, it'll help you soak up areas where the wash has gathered too much, like in the corners. Let that dry. I use a heat gun because I'm impatient. If the model's too hot to handle, you've applied too much heat, so keep it moving, and 20 to 30 seconds should do it. I'm making green wash from black wash with a single drop of game colour mutation green. I'm adding it to the leftover black wash from before and adding a little water. This brings the black wash back to life, helps with flow, and ensures I don't end up with a tint that's too opaque. Then I'm adding it to areas where mould and moss would gather. Next step is variation. I'll squeeze out all my colours so I can channel my inner Bob Ross by pulling things together. The idea here is to add some variation across the model. Look at some reference photos, or just wing it. Be spontaneous and courageous. But you could do this with only 3 colours. You've really got to have black and white in your kit. But on top of that, you usually want a warm colour like sepia or oxide. Without some degree of warmth, even if it's subtle, rocks and stones look unnaturally cold and sterile. A bit like those temperature adjustable LED downlights. When they're set on cool, it feels like a mortician's lab. Some of the black wash gets a bit lost, so I'll go back in with the wash and a little opaque black to maintain contrast in the shadows. I'm sure there's some science behind this, but I've just found models look better if you exaggerate shadows and highlights. Just don't overdo it, because it's painfully obvious when lighting effects are overdone. After another blast with a ray gun, I'll do some extremely light dry brushing. I've mixed a warm mid-grey for this and add so little you can hardly tell. I'm not attempting to accentuate edges and sun-facing surfaces, I'm actually using it to draw out the lighter tones. Variation is your friend. If you don't believe me, look out the window. I did add a little more green here and there to finish up. Now let's apply some black weathering powder, mostly at the top, where loco soot and exhaust fumes build up against the stone. This brush has fairly stiff bristles and I never clean it, I only use it for dark weathering powders. While it's not essential, I am locking all this in with a very quick coat of Tester's Dull Coat. Sometimes I'll add a tiny bit more weathering powder on top of this because the powder does have a nice matte texture that looks best uncovered. While this is a painting video, I will say that adding scenic detail really brings your model to life. Here's the finished look installed at one end of our viaduct scene. On that note, the viaduct section of our layout is forming an epic build and film that I've already spent many hours producing. If you're interested in seeing that, I'd encourage you to subscribe to the channel and select all under the little bell icon so you're notified when the videos come out. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Bye for now.